When you sit down to write your novel, are you going to tell one story or two, or maybe more? If you read the book, The Marshall Plan for Novel Writing by Evan Marshall, he recommends that you tell a main story and a totally different story as your subplot. So you'd be telling two stories. So if you have two stories, you're going to have to weave them together. And even though your second story, the subplot, is going to be a completely different story from the first one, you're still going to have to involve your hero somehow. Now, when you think up these two stories, initially you may not know how you're going to bring your hero into the second story. But just remember that you will have to. And if you think about it, you'll figure out a way. In every one of my mysteries, I have at least a main story and one subplot. In many of them, I have two subplots going. For example, in the first book I wrote, The Butterfly Conspiracy, the main story is that a young man, Stephen Morehouse, has just graduated from high school. He wants to spend the summer with his uncle, who's a famous movie director. His uncle has a place, a mansion, up in Michigan's wild Upper Peninsula. Stephen thinks that if he spends the summer there, he's going to be surrounded by beautiful starlets. And it turns out that this is not the case. Stephen also wants to take a train from New York City to Michigan because he wants to see some of the country that he'd miss if he flew. When he gets on the train, he makes friends with the guy sitting next to him. They go have coffee, they go have lunch. After a while, his friend says, "Stephen," he said, "is there any reason that somebody may be watching us or following you?" Stephen says, "No, what are you talking about?" And his friend tells him that every time they get up, it seems like a big guy in a wrinkled suit seems to get up at the same time. So, Stephen can't figure out what he's talking about, but then he notices that his friend is right. There is a man following him, and he can't figure out why. And that would be the main story. Why is this guy following Stephen? Now, for my subplot, once Stephen gets to his uncle's mansion, something very bad happens. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but all of the clues point to Stephen. Now, this story has nothing to do with the big guy following him on the train. It's a completely different storyline. But what does it accomplish? It puts more conflict on Stephen. So Stephen's getting conflict from the main story, and he's also getting conflict from the subplot. This keeps readers turning the pages. What's going on? How is Stephen going to get out of this? So what are the benefits of subplots? Well, there's several. First of all, they give your story more depth. Rarely in life is only one thing happening. So if you're reading a novel and it's only the main story, it gets to be boring. You need something to stop the action from that, take a breather, and get on to another story. Just like in life, if you watch episodic TV, you know that there's more than one storyline going on, and it keeps your interest. The second thing is, it gives you the opportunity to add more conflict. And like we said, conflict is good. It keeps readers turning pages. So you can have conflict in your main storyline, and you can also have conflict for your hero in your subplot. Also, number 3, it gives you character development opportunities. So your character can develop with the people or the characters in the first storyline, but they can also grow from the characters in the second story, in the subplot. And the fourth thing is it adds realism to your story because it shows your character in many different situations, not just the main storyline. So there's many benefits of using the idea that's presented in the Marshall Plan to write your story with a main storyline and also a subplot. This video was brought to you by the mystery novels of James R. Nelson. They can be found on Amazon.com as ebooks, paperbacks, hardcovers, and audio. Check out more tips for writing novels and short stories coming soon.